Something's keeping my husband. Amanda picked up her phone and checked the call log. She had called her husband an hour ago, and he said he would be coming home soon. Amanda sighed heavily and tried to push away negative thoughts. I hope nothing happened to him on the way, she muttered, spitting 3 times over her left shoulder. Everything will be fine. Mark will arrive soon. They'll sit together at the table and celebrate their anniversary. But an hour passed, then 2, then 3, and her husband still didn't come home. Amanda kept dialing her husband's number, but a harsh voice on the other end said, "The subscriber is temporarily unavailable." During the wait, Amanda managed to cry, get divorced, kill, and bury her husband in her thoughts. She heard the sound of an incoming message. The subscriber's number is available for a call. Mark picked up the phone on the 3rd attempt. Why are you calling me? 42 missed calls, he grumbled in response to the incoming call. Mark, I was really worried, Amanda started to justify herself. Mark arrived home in the early morning. He smelled of women's perfume, his tie was hanging out of his trousers pocket, and on the shoulder of his jacket, she discovered a faint trace of lipstick. Where have you been? Amanda asked her husband, almost crying from her fantasies. Amanda, Mark furrowed his brow, let's talk in the morning. I'm very tired. He gently pushed her aside and headed straight to the bedroom, where he fell on the bed and instantly fell asleep. Amanda looked at her husband, who spread out across the whole bed, wiped her tears away, took a blanket, and went to sleep on the couch. She suddenly didn't feel like lying in the same bed with her husband. Thanks, husband, for the celebration. That's how we celebrated our wedding anniversary, she sighed heavily. In the morning, Amanda woke up to noise. Mark was in a hurry for work, looking for a clean shirt, jacket, and trousers. He pulled everything out of the wardrobe with a crash. Mark, what time is it? It's already late. Get up, or you'll be late for work. Aren't you going to drop me off, sweetheart? Sorry, I can't give you a ride today. I need to meet with a client urgently. I'm already running late. Mark kissed Amanda and quickly rushed out of the apartment. Some incomprehensible feeling of anxiety spread throughout Amanda's body. Why am I worrying prematurely? She reassured herself. If he rushed to the client in the morning, it means he was definitely with him in the evening. Probably a big contract came up, and Mark grabbed the opportunity. Amanda calmed herself with her thoughts and went to work. Amanda, you seem different today. Did your husband not let you sleep all night? Doris, her colleague at work, winked at her. If only that were the reason, Amanda closed her eyes and rested her head on the table. I want to sleep. I hardly slept all night. My husband came home only in the early morning, and he smelled of women's perfume. Believe it or not, it's up to you. And how did he explain it? Doris asked in surprise. He didn't explain anything in the morning. He just got ready silently and left for work. Amanda began to massage her temples. But, my dear, let me tell you a very good saying, trust, but verify. You can't trust men in general. Don't follow my example. My husband cheated on me for 3 years, and I believed him all that time. The whole town knew that my husband had a mistress, and I was the only one who didn't know. Until one day, his friend who was drunk told me openly and pointed to his temple. Doris continued. I don't think Mark could do that to me, Amanda replied, but a shadow of doubt crept into her soul. In the evening, Mark was delayed at work again. Sweetie, I'm sorry. I got held up again. But soon we'll fulfill the contract's conditions, and I'll be coming home on time again. He kissed Amanda on the cheek and went to sleep. Where did they feed you? Amanda asked him, sounding annoyed. We had a snack at the office. We ordered delivery, Mark replied on the go. He laid down on the bed and instantly fell asleep. Amanda decided to check his phone, but her husband had changed the password. She had to put some effort into it, rack her brains to enter the right combination of numbers on his phone. Amanda didn't find anything interesting. All the messages were deleted, and she didn't discover any contacts with unfamiliar girls' names. In the morning, Amanda woke up again to noise. Mark was rushing for work. "Amanda, help me pick a shirt and tie." "My tie?" "I'm in a hurry, baby." "You'll have to make your way to work yourself again." He smiled guiltily and kissed her on the cheek. "All right, I'll go," Amanda sighed, feeling a mix of relief and suspicion. Amanda only had time to see his bag disappear behind the entrance door. The melody of Mark's cell phone rang in the bedroom. There you go, Amanda thought. He was in such a hurry that he forgot his phone at home. Amanda took the phone in her hands and opened the incoming messages. There was a photo of a slim blonde in an elegant set of lingerie. The caption below read, "I really liked your gift. I hope you'll take it off me tonight." Amanda looked at the message that came to her husband's phone, and tears involuntarily rolled down her eyes. Could it be that Mark is cheating on me? Amanda wondered aloud. She stared at the picture of the stunning blonde. She's beautiful, Amanda noted to herself, and he never gave me any lingerie as a gift. Unexpectedly, Amanda flinched at the sound of an incoming call. Doris was calling on her cell phone. "Hi, girlfriend. Are you going to work on your own today, or will your husband drop you off?" "I can pick you up along the way if you want," Doris said. "That would be nice," Amanda replied, sniffling. "What's up with your mood today? Did your husband ruin it again? Anyway, get ready quickly and come out. You can tell me everything on the way." Amanda quickly started getting ready. She applied some lipstick, adjusted her hairstyle in the mirror, and toyed with her husband's phone in her hands. After some thought, she placed it in her purse. While the friends were driving to work, Amanda detailed everything to Doris and, in conclusion, showed her the sent photo. "Wow, what a beauty," Doris glanced briefly at the blonde in the red swimsuit. "You know, Amanda, this photo reminds me of a woman with loose morals. Looks like some lingerie advertisement." Although Doris fell silent, gazing attentively ahead at the road. Knowing some cunning women, they will go to any tricks to lure a man away from his family, Amanda looked ahead blankly through the windshield, listening closely to her friend. "Well, what do you advise me to do? How should I act with my husband?" Amanda broke the silence. Doris pondered for a moment. She silently turned the steering wheel, making a right turn, and drove a little further, stopping at a red traffic light. "You have an excellent reason now to drop by his workplace. You'll understand everything from his reaction when he sees you. Just don't yell. Calmly show him the message and watch his response carefully." Doris parked the car near her husband's office, turned to her friend, and put on a focused expression. "All right, go for it. Good luck." Doris crossed Amanda 3 times, as if making a sign of the cross, and unlocked the doors. "Go, and remember, you're the most charming and attractive." Amanda took a handkerchief from her bag, blew her nose, wiped her eyes with powder, adjusted her face, put on her sunglasses, and stepped out of the car. As she rode the elevator to the 5th floor, Amanda repeated to herself several times, "I am the most charming and attractive. My husband is simply crazy about me." Amanda knocked on the door and, without waiting for a response, entered the office. 3 men besides Mark were leaning over a table, discussing something heatedly. When they saw Amanda, they immediately fell silent. Everyone greeted her, and Amanda apologized, asking her husband to step out into the corridor. "Amanda, what happened? Why are you here and not at work?" Mark asked in surprise when they left the office. "You forgot your phone at home," she said, handing him his mobile phone, and looked at him intently. "Really? I was in such a hurry that I didn't even notice." "Thanks, dear." But before giving him the phone, Amanda opened the message and showed it to Mark. "What is this nonsense?" He attentively examined the photo. As the elevator opened on the floor, several people stepped out and dispersed to their offices. Suddenly, Amanda felt a chill inside, and everything darkened in front of her eyes when she saw the very blonde woman who greeted Mark and went into the adjacent room. Amanda silently watched her husband's behavior, but he was acting impeccably. Finally, Amanda gathered all her inner strength and calmly, without showing her hurt and disappointment, managed to say, Why are you silent? Maybe you can explain to me who created this? Amanda, honestly, I can't explain anything. It's some mistake. Someone must have dialed the wrong number, Mark began hesitantly, trying to justify himself. Someone? Is it that blonde woman who just greeted you and went into the neighboring office? Amanda stared directly at her husband. Mark sighed heavily, turned his head to the window, and briefly pondered. Amanda, yes, it's her. But I swear to you that I will figure this out. We'll talk about this in the evening. But right now, he looked at his wife with a plea in his eyes. I really don't have time. You saw it yourself. Mark fell silent and unexpectedly choked when the same blonde woman emerged from the adjacent office. She turned her head towards Mark, gave him a slight smile, and with a cat-like walk, gracefully swaying her hips, sauntered down the corridor. Mark watched her until she disappeared from sight and then slowly shifted his gaze back to his wife. Amanda, please don't jump to conclusions. Just go to work calmly. I don't even know her name, Mark said. Amanda silently turned around and walked down the corridor. Mark kept his eyes on her until she reached the elevator and then entered his office. His mind was in complete disarray, nothing came to his mind, and he was answering questions randomly. It took Mark some time to gather his thoughts and get back to work. During the lunch break, he decided to clarify the situation. Mark went down to a small cafe where all the employees had their lunch, and there he saw Claudia sitting alone at a table, looking bored. May I join you and keep you company? Mark politely asked. Hello, Claudia said with a smile. Sure, sit down, it'll be more fun together. Mark sat down, looking at Claudia with unmistakable interest. My name is Mark, he said with a charming smile, turning on all his charm. Are you kidding? Claudia laughed in response. Not at all, I'm serious as ever, Mark replied. I would like to know why you sent me a photo of yourself in lingerie on my phone, and how did you get my phone number? Mark observed the girl attentively. Oh, did you forget that you yourself bought me this lingerie set and gave me your phone number on social media? Mark's face stretched into an unrecognizable expression. Me? You must be confusing me with someone else. I definitely didn't drink with you, that's for sure. My memory has never failed me, Mark hesitated timidly. The girl looked at him, and her eyes sparkled with cheerful glimmers. Come on, Mark, let's remember together. The day before yesterday, in the restaurant next to our office, you and your colleagues were celebrating some deal. My friend and I were sitting at the neighboring table. You kept inviting me to dance, and then a button on my blouse near the chest came undone, and you didn't like the color of my lingerie. You called a taxi and left. We thought you went home, but you came back with that red lingerie set and spent the rest of the evening trying to make me try it on. And you insisted that you couldn't be mistaken about the size. Mark listened to the girl with his mouth open, and the more she spoke, the more his hair stood on end, and his eyes grew wider and wider. He nervously swallowed and coughed softly, and what happened next? Then you accompanied me home, and I had a hard time getting you out of my apartment. Believe me, it wasn't easy. You kept insisting that you wanted to see your gift on me. When I said I would send you a photo, you calmed down a bit, took my phone, and added your number to my contacts. Echoes of that evening began to vaguely surface in his mind. Mark felt embarrassed that he had overindulged in alcohol that night. Claudia, please forgive me. I don't usually drink, he said. I noticed, Claudia laughed. Mark nervously bit his lower lip, loosened his tie, and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. I hope nothing happened between us. Mark looked at her hopefully, almost pleadingly. Mark, what do you take me for? Of course not, although you were quite determined to stay overnight. But I managed to send you home eventually. By the way, thank you so much for the lingerie. It fit perfectly, and I really liked it. It's so expensive, with my salary, I can't afford such underwear. I'd have to work for a month without pay to buy it. Mark nervously swallowed and thought to himself, my wife will find out, and she'll kill me. I wondered where the money from my card disappeared to. I hope that I transferred it to Amanda, Mark sighed heavily. Calm down, nobody will find out, Mark reassured himself, nervously tapping his fingers on the table. Do you really not remember anything? Claudia asked uncertainly. Well, I vaguely remember something. Mark avoided going into details, scolding himself with harsh words inside. My wife saw your photo on my phone. Wait, you're married? Claudia widened her eyes. Meanwhile, Amanda was sitting at her desk, sharing the details of her meeting with her husband. Doris listened attentively without interrupting. Yes, Doris said thoughtfully after Amanda finished her story, I don't even know what advice to give you, my friend. Everything is so tangled. From your story, I gathered that they did have a meeting. I don't want to judge Mark, but he's hiding something from you and not telling the whole truth, that's obvious. So here's my advice, when your husband starts telling you the story of this ill-fated photograph, pretend to believe him but try to ask him some tricky questions and observe him. You'll understand everything right away and draw the appropriate conclusions. Listen, Doris squinted her eyes, maybe we should talk to this blonde beauty. Let's follow her and corner her nicely. Amanda listened to Doris and began to ponder aloud, in short, I'll talk to Mark today, and tomorrow I think we should meet with our blonde. Otherwise, I just can't live with this weight on my chest until I know everything for sure. Amanda shook her head. All right, Doris, let's get some work done. Otherwise, we won't be heading to the blonde tomorrow, but looking for new jobs because we'll get fired for not fulfilling our duties. Mark picked up Amanda from work. They drove in silence, and no one asked the questions that had piled up over the past 2 days. Finally, Amanda couldn't take it anymore. Mark, don't you want to explain anything to me? I've been waiting for you to start talking to me. Amanda, there's actually nothing to tell. I talked to this Claudia. She explained to me that she simply dialed the wrong number. She felt embarrassed about it herself. The photo was intended for her boyfriend, not me. She apologized to me today. Is that all? Amanda asked her husband. Yes, Mark replied curtly. But how did she get your phone number? She was calculating the cost of our project, and naturally, our management provided her with our phone numbers so she could contact us directly if there were any questions. Amanda pretended to believe her husband, but knowing him, she understood that he was lying and not blushing. All right, Amanda reasoned with herself, we'll go a different way. It's a good thing we befriended Doris. I can only envy her enthusiasm and zest for life, and her invaluable advice is just what I need because in such a delicate situation, I can't think clearly. If it weren't for Doris, Amanda would have definitely made a scene. There would have been shouting, tears, maybe even violence. But following Doris's advice, Amanda put on a poker face during the bad acting throughout the evening. Mark observed his wife, and in the end, he was convinced that his version had passed with flying colors. His wife believed him and didn't ask any unnecessary questions. The next morning, Mark woke up in a great mood. He dropped Amanda off at work and went to the office with a clear conscience. In the elevator, he ran into Claudia. Hi, Mark, beamed with all 32 of his teeth. How are you? Maybe we can have lunch together today? Claudia looked at Mark arrogantly. Married men are off limits for me. It's unacceptable for me to waste my precious time. Stay away from me, she turned away from him demonstratively. Not that I really wanted to, Mark thought to himself. Stupid me wasted a month's salary on this uppity woman. Mark's mood was slightly spoiled. He was angry about the money he had wasted for nothing. Amanda called her husband and warned that she would be late at work. The boss demanded that I make up for those 2 hours I was absent yesterday, she told Mark in an offended tone. You go home, prepare dinner, I'll join you later. Unsuspecting Mark drove home, singing along to the famous singer whose melodious voice resonated from the speakers of the cassette player. Doris parked her car far away from Mark's car. They watched as Mark left the office and drove home alone. Amanda looked guilty as she glanced at Doris. Maybe we shouldn't have started all of this. Look, he's going home alone without the blonde, Amanda said. Well, since we're already here, let's finish what we started. If she comes out now, we'll just talk to her. But if we don't see her, then we won't pursue a meeting with her anymore, Doris replied. Before Doris could even finish her sentence, they spotted Claudia, who stopped and took something out of her handbag. Hello, dear, Doris approached Claudia. Can I ask you a couple of questions? She addressed her with a charming smile. Claudia looked at Doris questioningly. And who are you, actually? I'm a close friend of Mark's wife, Doris quickly replied. I didn't know he was married, Claudia responded. Doomed for 40 minutes already, Claudia sat in the back seat of Doris's car and told in detail how and under what circumstances she met Mark. At first, we just exchanged glances during the lunch break, and then we accidentally met at a restaurant. Mark came to our table with a bottle of martini. This is a personal gift from me to you girls. Such beautiful ladies should drink appropriate drinks. He was staring at my face with his eyes as if he could see right through me. Claudia continued her story. I never even thought that Mark was married. He behaved frivolously and casually, hardly giving me any room, constantly inviting me to dance. And then he brought this lingerie. Claudia nibbled on her lower lip and looked guiltily at Amanda. I would, of course, return the set, but as far as I know, lingerie is not subject to return or exchange. I'm very sorry that it turned out this way. Claudia kept fidgeting her fingers on her hands. As soon as he slipped that he was married, I immediately cut off all communication with him, Claudia replied. And did you want things to continue? Amanda asked. Unsurely, yes, he invited me to have lunch together today. I rudely declined, Claudia replied. You did great, Claudia. Who knows what would have happened if a girl without principles were in your place, Doris interjected. He tried to seduce me, but I had no intention of going to bed with a drunk man. I respect myself, the girl proudly replied. When the conversation was over and the girl was left alone, Doris turned her head to Amanda. What do you say? What is there to say? It's clear, Amanda replied softly. The affair didn't happen by some random chance unrelated to my husband, Amanda continued, and tears involuntarily flowed from her eyes. She let out a heavy sigh. When I get home, I'll just throw the dinner he prepared on his head. I have no other options, she said. It's clear that he's a complete idiot. Doris began to express her opinion, but there was no actual affair. Maybe for the first time, you should explain to him in detail that you forgive him for the first and last time. In any case, you need to talk. You'll see how he behaves, and then you can make your decision, Doris instructed her friend. Amanda silently wiped the tears that flowed from her eyes. She couldn't speak at the moment from hurt and disappointment. A lump was stuck in her throat, preventing her from speaking. She only nodded silently, indicating to Doris that she agreed. All right, enough crying, Doris said gently. We'll stop by the pharmacy now, and I'll buy you something to calm your nerves so that you can behave calmly and rationally and make decisions with a clear head. Everything has already happened, you know everything now. It's good that the girls turned out to be decent and told us everything, and she didn't jump into bed with him right away. That's the most important thing, Doris rambled on. Do you believe her? Amanda asked Doris, looking at her with her red teary eyes. A question mark hung on her sad face. Amanda, in this life, I don't trust anyone. As they say, trust but verify. Doris rubbed her temples and sighed. Maybe she, of course, hid some spicy details from us, but for some reason, I believe that there was no actual sex between them, Doris answered thoughtfully. And park the car near the pharmacy, wait for me here, I'll be quick, she told Amanda. At home, the delicious smell of oven-cooked chicken filled the air. Amanda had already sensed this aroma in the hallway. Mark greeted his wife with a smile at the doorstep and kissed her on the cheek. Sweetheart, hurry and get undressed, everything is ready, he said. Amanda walked into the kitchen and saw a beautifully set table. Mark, pleased with his creation, lit the candles and poured the wine. Darling, we never celebrated our wedding anniversary. Today we'll definitely do it, he said. Mark handed Amanda a glass of wine. To our happy marriage, may we live together in love and harmony until old age. Mark extended his hand with the glass to toast with his wife. But Amanda withdrew her hand. And where's the gift for me? Amanda watched her husband attentively. Darling, you saw for yourself that I've been really busy these past few days and didn't have time to think about a gift. But we'll definitely fix that a little later. Mark winked playfully at his wife and extended his hand again with the glass. I see, Amanda sarcastically remarked, the wife will do just fine without a gift. I understand that I am your gift, right? Of course, you spend a fortune on a gift for Claudia. I've never even dreamed of such an expensive lingerie set. It's too extravagant for your wife. I have no use for such a set. By the way, Amanda continued her monologue, your salary was supposed to be deposited into the account by now, but you persistently stay silent and say nothing, she calmly continued. Mark paled, he struggled to hold the glass of wine in his hand. His heart was pounding out of his chest, his hands trembling. He nervously swallowed, choked, and guiltily looked down at the floor. How do you know about Claudia? Mark managed to say, still looking down. I know everything. Amanda continued to drill her husband with a hateful gaze. And this chicken you cooked today, it's the last piece of meat in our freezer. My salary will go towards the mortgage, and what will we eat for the rest of the month? As I understand it, your entire salary went towards a lavish gift for Claudia. Bravo, you didn't fall flat on your face, you surprised everyone. I'm very interested, my dear husband, where did you find such boutiques with ridiculously expensive lingerie? Come on, enlighten your wife. Because celebrating our 5th anniversary, I realized that I don't know you at all. My eyes have been opened, you turned out to be such a gallant cavalier, your imagination is so rich, you managed to sneak off late in the evening in a taxi to buy stunning lingerie for your beloved girl. She must have really captivated you, huh? I never expected that you could court someone so beautifully. Amanda put the wine glass back on the table, picked up a chicken leg, placed some potatoes on her plate, and calmly started eating, not showing how heavy and bitter her heart felt. Mark stood there rooted to the spot, silently watching his wife. Finally, he regained his composure. Are we just going to keep silent? He asked Amanda. It seems like I've been doing all the talking tonight, she calmly replied to his question. I'd like to hear from you. Amanda raised her eyes and looked attentively at her husband. What else am I supposed to say to you? You already know everything, Mark cynically responded. Amanda thought that he would start apologizing, repenting, and begging her, but Mark decided that the best defense is an offense. So what? I flirted a little with a colleague at work. It's not a crime, especially since I was drunk and don't remember anything. I don't see any reason for a fight or argument, Mark declared. He demonstratively sat down at the table, gulped down his wine, and began serving himself food on his plate. Amanda stayed silent, observing her husband's rude behavior. No one said a word at the table anymore. Amanda unhurriedly ate everything she had put on her plate without saying a word. She got up, thanks for dinner, she said, and left the table. Don't you want to keep me company? Mark looked closely at Amanda. Sit with me. I don't see the point. Amanda forced a smile to her husband and left the kitchen. Mark remained sitting at the table, nervously tapping the knife and fork. How did she find out everything? He asked himself. Did she talk to Claudia, or maybe one of the colleagues blabbered? They always laughed at me when Claudia and I looked at each other. Screw it, I don't care about that. She'll cool off and calm down. The main thing is that there was no actual betrayal, and flirting is not betrayal, Mark tried to reassure himself. Amanda turned on the TV, covered herself with a blanket, and lay down on the couch. Claudia, Amanda sighed sadly, he got caught with this Claudia, but how many others were there? The story remained silent about that. Amanda sighed heavily again. I need to try to fall asleep quickly so I don't have to see or hear him, Amanda mentally instructed herself. When she heard Mark leaving the kitchen, Amanda closed her eyes and pretended to be asleep. Who's going to clean up the table? Mark asked in an annoyed tone. Amanda, let's be fair. I cooked, you clean up. Mark stood by the couch and looked provocatively at his wife. Amanda didn't bother to argue. She silently got up and went to the kitchen. Mark followed her. But why are you silent? Say something, he addressed her. I have nothing to talk to you about, Amanda replied, holding back her emotions. Well, how can you have nothing to say? Mark slurred his words. I'm such a terrible husband. I don't help you at all, don't give you enough attention, and I hurt you. Mark's verbal diarrhea couldn't be stopped. And you're such a good wife, so beautiful, smart, and always paying the mortgage. Mark emphasized the last words. Stop talking nonsense, Amanda interrupted her husband. If you messed up, at least have the decency to behave properly. It's outrageous that you blame me for your escapades. I'm disgusted with this whole situation. Amanda couldn't hold herself back and burst into tears. And you have the nerve to stand here in front of me and spout this nonsense. Couldn't you at least apologize? Amanda said, wiping away her tears. Do you know the saying that if a husband cheats, both are guilty? Mark raised his voice. Do you know the saying, if you want things to go well, it always turns out bad? Amanda retorted. What was missing for you that you ran to the left? What am I guilty of? Is it because I hurry home from work? You always look so neat, your clothes are ironed, and I always cook so you won't go hungry. I always thought that even in our intimate life, things were not bad. Or am I mistaken? Amanda challenged her husband with her gaze. Mark couldn't stop himself, not realizing he had slipped into the role of a lover. So, I was missing something. Draw your conclusions and fix your mistakes, he said, demonstratively staring directly at Amanda. Oh really? Is that all you have to say? Amanda widened her eyes and looked into her husband's shameless face. I've said everything, Mark replied and went to the bedroom. Let others live with such a bore like you, Amanda shouted after him. Yes, others will be happy to, Mark retorted. You've become so audacious, he closed the bedroom door from his side. So, we've had a talk, Amanda said to herself. Let him find another frivolous woman to fawn over him while he looks at other women. Amanda bitterly smirked and quietly cried. Tomorrow I'll file for divorce. I'm not going to live with this rude and philandering man. Let him continue going to whomever he wants. I don't care anymore. I've made up my mind. There's no place for him in my future plans. The next morning, Mark approached her and put his hands on her shoulders. Amanda, forgive me, he said. I don't know what came over me. I didn't sleep all night. I was thinking, and only towards morning did it start to dawn on me what I was doing. I love you and don't want to lose you. Amanda lowered her eyes to the floor and listened to her husband in silence. If you give me another chance, I'll try to make the best of it, Mark continued, looking at his wife. But Amanda remained silent. Sweetheart, let's go. I'll drive you to the office, Mark offered after a few minutes of complete silence. No need, Amanda replied succinctly. Sweetheart, but I'm guilty, I admit it. But please think things through before making any hasty statements. Really, Amanda, there was nothing, and there couldn't be anything. I don't need anyone but you. Amanda found pleasure in hearing words of repentance from her husband, but the hurt was still tormenting her soul, and she wasn't ready to forgive him just yet. After yesterday's conversation with her husband, which escalated into a quarrel, Amanda was inclined towards divorce in the morning, but now her heart wavered, and she began to have doubts about her decision. I need to think carefully, Amanda calmly replied. Mark smiled and gently kissed his wife. Of course, sweetheart, just think it through thoroughly. He grabbed her waist with both hands, lifted her, and started spinning. Mark, let me go right now, Amanda said sternly. Otherwise, we'll be late for work. At work, Amanda was as always, telling Doris in detail how her husband behaved last night and this morning. I don't know what to advise you, Doris said after some contemplation. It's entirely up to you how to proceed. If you want to save your family, you could forgive him, of course. What would you do if you were in my place? Amanda asked. I really don't want to be in your place. I'm quite happy where I am, Doris grinned. But honestly, I would be in favor of preserving the family. Of course, you can't just forgive him immediately. You need to let him know you're hurt, let Mark get nervous and worried so that he doesn't get too complacent. Doris, how about going to a cafe after work today? Let's sit down, relax mentally. As far as I can remember, all 5 years of my marriage, I've been rushing home, and what did I get? It's as if no one needs it, no one appreciated it. I turned into some kind of housekeeper. Today, I don't want to go home, I don't want to see him yet. I understand that I'm doing something wrong, but that's how I feel like doing it. Sure, Doris confidently replied, I haven't gone out anywhere myself in a long time. Home, home, and there will be nothing to remember in old age, she smiled. Mark picked up his wife from work. Amanda approached his car and gestured for him to roll down the window. Mark, I'm going to a cafe tonight. I'll be back late. Doris and I decided to hang out for a bit. We finished our quarterly report, and we want to celebrate a little. Mark looked displeased. Amanda, are you doing this to spite me? Fight fire with fire, he looked at his wife inquiringly. Well, okay, you'll take even more revenge on me, and then there's no point in making up. Think what you want, I warned you, Amanda said and walked to the car where her friend was waiting. Did he get really upset? Doris asked. I don't care, I'm not ready to listen to his singing all evening today, especially when my trust in him is undermined. I don't believe a single word he says, I want to relax. Amanda fastened her seatbelt. Let's go, she said cheerfully. Mark came home all worked up. Not only was there no dinner prepared at home and the fridge was empty, but he also had to do the laundry. Today he had already worn an unwashed shirt to work but kept quiet. In the morning, he wasn't in a position to express his dissatisfaction to his wife. Right now, Mark gathered all his shirts and loaded them into the washing machine. Why do I even need a wife? Mark muttered to himself. If I have to do everything myself, she's busy with her extravagance, eating and drinking, but what will I eat if there's a dead mouse hanging in the fridge? Mark let out a heavy sigh. He felt uneasy even though she hadn't done anything yet. But who knows, maybe she'll decide to get back at me. Let her try, he grumbled to himself. Then, after a little thought, he took out his phone and sent a message to his wife. I'll pick you up. Let me know when and where to come. Amanda received a message from her husband, smiled, and read it to her friend. You see, he's worried, he's afraid to lose you, that's just great. It means he values the family. Doris began to express her opinion with a satisfied smile, leaning on the back of her chair. If only that were true, Amanda laughed. Most likely, he just doesn't want to lose his free housekeeper. He's got it all figured out, the dear husband. He gets into the walk-in closet and takes out clean clothes, opens the fridge and finds ready-made food. Now, let him move a little, and I'll take a break and watch from the sidelines how long he can last. I know he's broke right now, he's strapped for cash. But I'm not going to help him. I think by tomorrow he won't have money to fill up the car. But if I give him money for gas, then I'll end up driving myself. I'll throw glamorous parties for him, spend your salary. Go work as a night watchman, how does that sound? That's exactly what he wanted. Amanda poured herself some mineral water, looked around, and drank it all at once. I don't like keeping anyone, she said, and placed the empty glass on the table. But don't be mad at me, she said as her friend tried to calm her down. It's not a good idea to go overboard with men either. Mark isn't entirely bad. The main thing is for him to realize that he behaved awfully and draw the necessary conclusions. By the way, I liked your suggestion working as a night watchman, but not as a night watchman, of course. Doris thought for a moment and continued, I have a relative who works part-time at a supermarket at night. She's stocking the shelves, paid by the hour. She gets paid for the number of hours worked. I'll suggest to Mark that he should work physically with his hands in his free time from his main job. My relative says they always need workers. Oh, that's a fantastic idea, Doris, you're a genius. I'll talk to him about it today. At least he'll think twice before looking around and cheating. It still hurts when I think about it. I don't even know if I can survive all this. Amanda looked thoughtfully at Doris and placed her hands on the table. Maybe you can do without this extra job after all, Doris asked her question. We'll get a quarterly bonus this month, that's out of the question, replied Amanda. I'll spend my bonus strictly on my needs. I've had enough of economizing on myself. I'll either buy expensive lingerie, Amanda emphasized the word lingerie, or spend the money at a beauty salon. I've wanted to do a chocolate wrap, sugaring, mesotherapy for my face, and eyebrow correction for a long time. There's so much I need to do. Mine once it will exceed the bonus. Well done, my friend, Doris replied. You'll teach your husband a lesson and treat yourself at the same time. Finally, you'll learn to value and respect yourself. There's no other way, Amanda said after taking another sip of mineral water. Let him get an advance or borrow from his parents, I don't care. And let him figure out how to pay me back. I'll transfer my salary for the mortgage tomorrow and confront him with the fact. For the second week, Mark has been working at the local hypermarket. He finishes his main job at 5 p.m. and starts his extra job at 7 p.m., ending at 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Mark works through the whole night. When his wife presented him with her proposal, he felt offended by Amanda for putting him in such tough conditions, but he had no choice, he had to agree. At first, it was difficult for him to juggle both jobs. Mark came to his office job exhausted, tired, and irritated, but now he's gotten into the swing of things and he even started enjoying the physical work, finding his own advantages in it. Amanda got a short haircut, got highlights, did her eyebrows, and most importantly, finally bought herself an expensive set of lingerie. It was still significantly cheaper than the one Mark gave Claudia, but it was still not cheap. During his lunch break, Mark went to a local cafe and saw Claudia there, choosing a milkshake. When she saw Mark, she waved at him and smiled. Why did I even look at her? She can't even compare to my wife, Mark thought to himself, waving back at her. My Amanda is gorgeous with her height, figure, and bust. Everything about her is perfect. Claudia is just ordinary, and I don't like her manicure or hairstyle. She's a young unmarried girl, and she just throws her hair into a messy bun. I guess she's too lazy to do her hair in the morning. Mark silently approached the administrator and started reading the menu. Claudia cheerfully asked him, "How are you, Mark? You know we're celebrating another big deal tomorrow. Are you joining us or what?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she observed her interlocutor. "Or what?" Mark replied discontentedly. "Oh, that's a shame." Claudia made a sad face and then laughed. "I thought you might play along again," she squinted. "When I playfully, I enjoyed the last time." "And you?" she asked. "I didn't enjoy it," Mark replied sternly. "After that party and the photo you sent to my phone, my wife almost divorced me. But I love my wife and don't want to lose my family." After work, Amanda came home, cooked dinner, cleaned the floor near the entrance, watched the local news on TV, called her mom, and checked the time. Mark is working his extra job today, so he'll come home late, Amanda thought to herself. I'll go to the store to get some bread for breakfast tomorrow. Amanda returned from the store with a bag full of groceries. The first floor of the building was dark. Amanda called the elevator. A man came out of the apartment opposite the elevator, and the smell of alcohol hit Amanda from a distance. "Hello, neighbor," he greeted Amanda while struggling to stand on his feet. "Do you have a cigarette?" The neighbor pressed Amanda against the wall, breathing his stale breath on her. "I don't smoke," Amanda replied. "Well, I hope you don't drink either," he smeared. The neighbor pressed himself even harder against her with his entire body and buried his nose in her neck. "You look so appetizing," he said. "Young man, leave me alone. If you don't, I'll scream and wake up all the neighbors." Amanda sternly began pushing the man away. "Go ahead, try," he mockingly replied, pressing even closer to Amanda. "Help!" Amanda started shouting, but the neighbor's huge hand covered her mouth. "Oh, you're such a feisty little kitten. I love spirited girls like you," he said. He opened the door to his apartment and forcefully dragged Amanda inside, slamming the door shut with his foot and pulling her into a room. Amanda resisted as much as she could, but the man was much stronger. He found the situation amusing, relishing his advantage as he pushed Amanda onto the bed, overpowering her with his weight. "So, little kitty, have you stopped resisting yet?" he asked, his hands roaming all over her body. "Please don't touch me," Amanda pleaded, but the man ignored her, unzipping her pants with one hand while squeezing her neck with the other. Amanda sat on the bed, sobbing, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I know he's broke right now. He's strapped for cash, but I'm not going to help him. I think by tomorrow he won't have money to fill up the car. But if I give him money for gas, then I'll end up driving myself. I'll throw glamorous parties for him, spend your salary, go work as a night watchman." How does that sound? That's exactly what he wanted. Amanda poured herself some mineral water, looked around, and drank it all at once. "I don't like keeping anyone," she said, and placed the empty glass on the table. "But don't be mad at me," she said as her friend tried to calm her down. "It's not a good idea to go overboard with men either. Mark isn't entirely bad. The main thing is for him to realize that he behaved awfully and draw the necessary conclusions. By the way, I liked your suggestion, working as a night watchman, but not as a night watchman, of course." Doris thought for a moment and continued, "I have a relative who works part-time at a supermarket at night. She's stocking the shelves, paid by the hour. She gets paid for the number of hours worked. I'll suggest to Mark that he should work physically with his hands in his free time from his main job. My relative says they always need workers." "Oh, that's a fantastic idea, Doris, you're a genius. I'll talk to him about it today. At least he'll think twice before looking around and cheating. It still hurts when I think about it. I don't even know if I can survive all this." Amanda looked thoughtfully at Doris and placed her hands on the table. "Maybe you can do without this extra job after all?" Doris asked her question. "We'll get a quarterly bonus this month." "That's out of the question," replied Amanda. "I'll spend my bonus strictly on my needs. I've had enough of economizing on myself. I'll either buy expensive lingerie," Amanda emphasized the word lingerie, "or spend the money at a beauty salon. I've wanted to do a chocolate wrap, sugaring, mesotherapy for my face, and eyebrow correction for a long time. There's so much I need to do, my wants will exceed the bonus." "Well done, my friend," Doris replied. "You'll teach your husband a lesson and treat yourself at the same time. Finally, you'll learn to value and respect yourself." "There's no other way," Amanda said after taking another sip of mineral water. "Let him get an advance or borrow from his parents, I don't care. And let him figure out how to pay me back. I'll transfer my salary for the mortgage tomorrow and confront him with the fact." For the second week, Mark has been working at the local hypermarket. He finishes his main job at 5 p.m. and starts his extra job at 7 p.m., ending at 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Mark works through the whole night. When his wife presented him with her proposal, he felt offended by Amanda for putting him in such tough conditions, but he had no choice. He had to agree. At first, it was difficult for him to juggle both jobs. Mark came to his office job exhausted, tired, and irritated, but now he's gotten into the swing of things, and he even started enjoying the physical work, finding his own advantages in it. Amanda got a short haircut, got highlights, did her eyebrows, and most importantly, finally bought herself an expensive set of lingerie. It was still significantly cheaper than the one Mark gave Claudia, but it was still not cheap. During his lunch break, Mark went to a local cafe and saw Claudia there, choosing a milkshake. When she saw Mark, she waved at him and smiled. "Why did I even look at her? She can't even compare to my wife," Mark thought to himself, waving back at her. "My Amanda is gorgeous with her height, figure, and bust. Everything about her is perfect. Claudia is just ordinary, and I don't like her manicure or hairstyle. She's a young unmarried girl, and she just throws her hair into a messy bun. I guess she's too lazy to do her hair in the morning." Mark silently approached the administrator and started reading the menu. Claudia cheerfully asked him, "How are you, Mark? You know we're celebrating another big deal tomorrow. Are you joining us or what?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she observed her interlocutor. "Or what?" Mark replied discontentedly. "Oh, that's a shame." Claudia made a sad face and then laughed. "I thought you might play along again." She squinted when playfully. "I enjoyed the last time." "And you?" she asked. "I didn't enjoy it," Mark replied sternly. "After that party and the photo you sent to my phone, my wife almost divorced me. But I love my wife and don't want to lose my family." After work, Amanda came home, cooked dinner, cleaned the floor near the entrance, watched the local news on TV, called her mom, and checked the time. Mark is working his extra job today, so he'll come home late, Amanda thought to herself. "I'll go to the store to get some bread for breakfast tomorrow." Amanda returned from the store with a bag full of groceries. The first floor of the building was dark. Amanda called the elevator. A man came out of the apartment opposite the elevator, and the smell of alcohol hit Amanda from a distance. "Hello, neighbor," he greeted Amanda while struggling to stand on his feet. "Do you have a cigarette?" The neighbor pressed Amanda against the wall, breathing his stale breath on her. "I don't smoke," Amanda replied. "Well, I hope you don't drink either," he sneered. The neighbor pressed himself even harder against her with his entire body and buried his nose in her neck. "You look so appetizing," he said. "Young man, leave me alone. If you don't, I'll scream and wake up all the neighbors." Amanda sternly began pushing the man away. "Go ahead, try," he mockingly replied, pressing even closer to Amanda. "Help!" Amanda started shouting, but the neighbor's huge hand covered her mouth. "Oh, you're such a feisty little kitten. I love spirited girls like you," he said. He opened the door to his apartment and forcefully dragged Amanda inside, slamming the door shut with his foot and pulling her into a room. Amanda resisted as much as she could, but the man was much stronger. He found the situation amusing, relishing his advantage as he pushed Amanda onto the bed, overpowering her with his weight. "So, little kitty, have you stopped resisting yet?" he asked, his hands roaming all over her body. "Please don't touch me," Amanda pleaded, but the man ignored her, unzipping her pants with one hand while squeezing her neck with the other. Amanda sat on the bed, sobbing, wiping tears from her cheeks. "Oh, come on, stop crying," he drunkenly reassured her. "It's your own fault. You shouldn't wander alone at night." He sprawled on the bed and paid no attention to her tears, stretching out, yawning loudly, and almost immediately falling asleep. Amanda looked at the drunken man with disdain, who was snoring with satisfaction. She sighed heavily, wiped her tears, got dressed, and slowly made her way home. Once home, she immediately headed for the shower. She bathed several times as if trying to wash away the shame. Amanda felt disgusted by the memory of what had happened to her just an hour earlier. Why did I go to that store? How am I supposed to live with this burden on my heart? Amanda kept repeating to herself, recalling that dreadful evening over and over again. Amanda decided not to tell Mark about the drunken neighbor. She was ashamed even to think about it, and she didn't want to tell her husband. But she confided everything down to the smallest details to her faithful friend Doris the next morning at work. "Maybe you should call the police and report the assault," Doris cautiously asked. With tears in her eyes, Amanda replied, "Yes, and then the whole neighborhood would know I was assaulted, and they'd point fingers at me." "Thanks, Doris, but I don't want that kind of notoriety for myself." "Will you tell Mark, then?" Lisa asked carefully. "I'm ashamed to tell him," Amanda sobbed again. "I know I should, but I can't bring myself to do it." Amanda covered her face with her hands. "In that case, forget about the incident and don't tell anyone else. Don't even recall it yourself. I think your neighbor was so drunk that he won't even remember you. So, my advice is when you see him, pretend you don't know him and that nothing ever happened between you two. Just erase this incident from your life, forget it, and don't torment yourself with memories. It happened due to circumstances beyond your control, Amanda." You are only at fault for having that scumbag as your neighbor. Doris tried to console Amanda, but the wound was still fresh. As Amanda passed by that ill-fated apartment, her heart pounded like a blacksmith's hammer. She felt as though the door would open at any moment and those strong hands would drag her back into the apartment onto that filthy bed, and she would have to endure that repulsive smell of alcohol again. But Amanda never encountered the neighbor again, and little by little, she started to recover. The pain subsided slightly. The distressing incident began to fade away until one morning she felt queasy at the sight of the food on the table. At work, Amanda almost fainted during lunch break. Luckily, her loyal friend Doris was there to catch her and prevent her from falling to the floor. "Amanda, are you pregnant by any chance?" Doris asked with a smile. "I don't know," Amanda replied softly. "I'll take a pregnancy test tonight, and if anything, you'll be the first to know the results." Amanda continued the conversation. The test showed 2 lines. Under different circumstances, Amanda would have jumped for joy and happiness, immediately rushing to tell Mark about this wonderful news. But now, Amanda wasn't sure if the child was Mark's. Today was Amanda's last day at work as she would begin her maternity leave tomorrow. "How are you feeling, my friend?" Doris asked cheerfully. "I'm going to miss you a lot," Doris continued with a saddened voice. "Who will I share my secrets with?" She pursed her lips, took a deep breath, and looked at Amanda with regret. "Fortunately, we have cell phones, and they haven't been abolished yet, so don't even think you'll be without my evening questions and misunderstandings." "You'll still seek my wise and helpful advice and answers," Amanda replied. Doris smiled. "I hope you won't need my advice anymore. Mark is over the moon with happiness about becoming a father. The child will be born, and you will have a perfectly healthy and complete family." Amanda covered her head with her hands and sighed heavily. "That's what I fear the most. When our daughter is born, the lies will unravel. What if she resembles her biological father, who's not a good person? Then I could have serious problems. Just thinking about it makes me tremble. I can't sleep or eat." "Don't dwell on it," Doris winked at her cheerfully, responding, "Maybe the doctors made a mistake with the timing, and it will be Mark's child. You'll see, everything will be fine. We'll get through this. The main thing is that you'll have a daughter, and then you'll figure things out according to the situation. And I've told you before, stop tormenting yourself and accept the birth of the little girl as a gift from fate. Who knows, maybe Mark has some fertility issues and can't have children." Doris pondered for a moment. "It's quite a coincidence if you look at it from another perspective. Your Mark also has his issues. Anyway, let's close this topic. I'll go make some tea and slice the cake, and you call the girls from the neighboring departments. We'll have a nice tea party and let you go home early." Doris took a knife, napkins, disposable plates, and went to prepare the table for the tea gathering. Amanda, not in a hurry, entered the stairwell, pressed the elevator button, and waited. Someone was walking behind her, but Amanda didn't bother to turn around. They recently moved with her husband and didn't interact much with anyone, just exchanging greetings with the neighbors in the mornings, and that was the extent of their communication. When Amanda heard that someone was unlocking the door on the first floor, she turned her head and saw the face of the man she least wanted to meet. Amanda's breathing became heavy and rapid, and a slight shiver ran through her whole body. The neighbor opened the door, but before entering the apartment, he abruptly stopped, looked intently at Amanda, and then glanced at her stomach. The man was very well dressed, exuding the scent of expensive men's cologne. Amanda turned pale and staggered slightly. The man lightly supported her shoulders. "Miss, are you feeling unwell?" He looked attentively at her face. No, excuse me, I just feel dizzy." "It happens to me often," Amanda replied. The elevator doors opened, and as she took a step, fear overwhelmed her again, causing her to lose balance and sway slightly to the side. Without hesitation, the man entered the elevator with her and supported her shoulder. "I can't leave you in this condition. I'll accompany you to your apartment," he said. Amanda herself knew she wouldn't be able to reach her door without help. Her legs were weak, and her head was spinning. She didn't even have the strength to refuse or object to the assistance offered. "What for?" he calmly asked Amanda and pressed the appropriate button. Amanda attempted to open the door, but her hands were trembling, her vision darkened, and she couldn't insert the key into the lock. The man took the keys from her, opened the door, and helped her inside. He took off Amanda's shoes, coat, and scarf, escorted her to the couch, opened the window, and sat on the chair opposite, observing her attentively. "How do you feel?" he asked Amanda with concern. "Thank you, I'm fine, just feeling dizzy." "It happens to me sometimes," she quietly replied. "By the way, my name is Ralph," he said. "Very nice to meet you." "I'm Amanda," she replied, coughing slightly and looking at him for the first time with an open gaze. Ralph didn't take his eyes off Amanda. He attentively observed her and smiled at the corners of his lips. "Have we ever met somewhere before?" "Your face seems very familiar to me," he asked. No, I'm seeing you for the first time." "I have a very good memory for faces," Amanda replied, lowering her gaze and examining her hands. "Thank you for helping me," she said. Amanda started to get up from the couch, signaling to her interlocutor that he should leave and go home. She closed the door behind the neighbor and slowly sat back down on a chair. Events from that evening flashed through her mind. Amanda closed her eyes and leaned against the wall. At that moment, Ralph seemed hopelessly addicted to alcohol, lacking character and morals, but now she saw him from a completely different perspective. "It seems I was wrong about him. He doesn't look like an alcoholic or a careless person. I wonder if he's married," Amanda asked herself out loud. "Anyway, what does it matter?" she answered her own question. "I haven't seen him for half a year, and I hope I won't see him again for several more years." Amanda got up and went to the kitchen, washed an apple, sat back on the couch, and turned on the TV. She couldn't get the image of her neighbor out of her head. "Thank goodness he doesn't remember me," Amanda thought, exhaling deeply. "What possessed me to meet him? Now I have nothing to do but think about him." Amanda lay down on the couch, covered herself with a blanket, and closed her eyes. "I'll rest for a bit, and then I'll call Doris," Amanda thought, and almost immediately fell into a deep sleep. What a twist! Doris carefully listened to Amanda and occasionally added her own comments. "You say he's not an alcoholic? Well, that's good. You know, dear, heredity is the ability of an organism to pass on its genes through inheritance. If anything, genes or genes, Amanda decides heavily. But I feel uneasy about it." She looked at me so attentively and thoughtfully, as if trying to remember something. "Come on, stop overthinking it. Don't burden yourself with such thoughts. He's just a man who couldn't pass by a cute pregnant girl. Continue living your peaceful, steady life, and don't worry about it," Doris reassured her friend over the phone. Ralph entered his home, walked to the window, and pondered for a moment. "Somewhere, we definitely met before. I can't shake the feeling that I know her." Ralph stood by the window for a long time, thinking about Amanda. Her image wouldn't leave his mind. "Where have I seen you before, beauty? Even though you claim to be seeing me for the first time, I can tell from your frightened eyes that you're not being entirely truthful," he said. Ralph stared into the distance thoughtfully, his mind buzzing with thoughts. He shook his head. "Enough of trying to train your brain today. I have plans to drill holes for a shelf in the bathroom." Ralph gave himself a directive and got to work. 6 months ago, Ralph got divorced and moved into this apartment, which he inherited from his grandfather. The place was in a sorry state, but Ralph had done a costly and good renovation, bought new furniture, appliances, and everything necessary. During the renovation, Ralph stayed with a friend and only recently moved into his own apartment. He hardly knew any of the neighbors. When he saw Amanda today, her face seemed painfully familiar. "But why am I fixated on this Amanda? I don't understand myself," Ralph mumbled to himself. "Maybe I've seen her before. I just remember a beautiful face, interesting features. Just a nice girl, that's all." Now she's pregnant, and soon she'll give birth to a child, becoming a mother. A phone call on his cell interrupted Ralph's thoughts. It was a colleague from work, asking him to review the sketches and drafts for a major advertising campaign for a large trading company. Send me all the material to my email. I'll take a look and provide my comments and suggestions. I'll send it back for revisions if needed, Ralph replied and hung up the phone. After talking with Doris, Amanda pressed the red button on her phone and decided to pamper her husband with her attention by preparing a romantic candlelit dinner. I guess I'm going on maternity leave after all, Amanda thought. It's a good reason, and it's been a while since my husband and I had a candlelit dinner, Amanda pondered to herself, taking out the frozen chicken from the freezer. Mark came home, and his mouth watered at the aroma wafting from the kitchen. Amanda walked into the hallway, greeting her husband with a smile and kissed Mark on the cheek. Quickly get changed, everything's ready. I'll feed you, she said. Mark walked into the kitchen and saw a beautifully set table. Wow, darling, how beautiful. He hugged his wife and kissed her gently on the lips. You're my little homemaker. My homemaker's hands are golden, Mark said lovingly. Mark looked at Amanda with loving eyes. Darling, please don't be offended. Well, what can I do with you, my hard-working man? Amanda lowered her eyes. Go earn some money, there's never too much money, Amanda gently stroked her husband's head. You seem to be working night shifts more often, my dear, Amanda looked closely into Mark's eyes. It seemed to her that he became flustered and looked away. Darling, if you don't feed me now, I'll have to go to work hungry, Mark affectionately stroked Amanda's belly, again leaned in, and gave it a gentle kiss. How is our little baby feeling? Great, Amanda replied and began to feed her husband. Hello, hey, girlfriend, Amanda started the conversation. You won't believe it, but I already miss you and need your valuable advice. Maybe I should become a psychologist, Doris laughed. I think your valuable advice would be worth its weight in gold, Amanda replied with a chuckle. Keep praising me, I really like it, Doris continued in a satisfied tone. I think Mark has someone else, Amanda said seriously. Doris fell silent, then cleared her throat on the other end of the line. Why do you suddenly think that? Did Mark give you a reason to believe that? I had a sudden feeling today, and I think my instincts didn't fail me. I prepared a candlelit dinner for him, but he ate quickly and rushed to take on extra work. He could have declined if he wanted to. It's voluntary work. He could have gone tomorrow, especially since he used to do that when he didn't want to go, and his eyes looked guilty. Amanda continued her conversation with a sad voice. Well, you're really jumping to conclusions, my friend, Doris replied, listening carefully to Amanda's story. When he comes home today, make sure to smell his clothes, try to stand up and look into his eyes. I think you'll understand everything right away. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Hopefully, you're wrong, Doris said confidently. I hope so too, Amanda sighed, but my heart is uneasy, she continued with a sad voice. While it was still light outside, Amanda decided to take a walk and breathe some fresh air. She dressed warmly and went out. The neighborhood kids were playing in the yard. Some were riding bicycles, others on rollerblades, little children were swinging on the swings. Amanda stopped and gazed at the playground. Very soon I'll be walking here with my little girl, Amanda thought, gently stroking her belly. Her eyes widened, and a slight shiver ran through her body. Ralph was approaching her. In one hand, he had a bag of groceries, and in the other hand, he held a window cleaning mop. Amanda wanted to turn around and walk in the other direction, but her legs wouldn't obey. Ralph noticed Amanda from afar and quickened his pace. He noticed that Amanda seemed a bit flustered when she saw him and initially wanted to turn back, but at the last moment, she changed her mind and stayed in place. Hello again, Amanda, Ralph greeted her cheerfully. I'm glad to see you in good health and spirits, Ralph carefully observed Amanda's behavior. Amanda slightly choked. I'm also very pleased to see you, she replied with a forced smile. I want to thank you once again for helping me get to the apartment today. Oh, you're welcome. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. Always at your service, Ralph replied. Are you going for a walk? He stared intently at Amanda, making her feel uneasy under his gaze. Yes, I decided to get some fresh air before bedtime, she answered his question. Have a good day, Amanda said with the same forced smile and walked along the sidewalk. For some time, Ralph stood there and watched his neighbor as she walked away. No, I won't be able to sleep tonight until I remember where I know you from, Ralph said thoughtfully. This is no longer funny, Amanda said quietly, feeling a bit nervous. This Ralph is becoming too much in my life. With her hands in the coat pockets, Amanda fell into deep thought. Her cheeks were burning, and she felt a slight shiver running through her body. Amanda couldn't understand if she was feeling cold or if it was nerves. But am I just overthinking this? Clearly, he doesn't remember anything, Amanda exhaled heavily. Life was so much better before I met this Ralph. As it was starting to get dark, Amanda returned from her walk. She approached her building and saw the neighbor again. He was standing on the street smoking. This can't be. Is he going to keep bothering me all the time now? Unpleasant excitement arose within Amanda once more. Ralph constantly glanced out of the window and waited for the familiar silhouette to appear on the horizon. As soon as he spotted Amanda in the distance, he grabbed his jacket and went outside. What's wrong with me? I'm acting like a little boy, Ralph scolded himself in his thoughts. But why do I even need all of this? She's a pregnant girl, and most likely she has a husband. Yet here I am, wandering around in front of her. It's obvious to the naked eye that she finds me unpleasant. Hello again, Ralph greeted Amanda with a broad smile. I won't be surprised if she kicks me out now, an intrusive thought flashed in his mind. Good evening, Amanda replied sternly and walked past Ralph. He quickly put out the cigarette and threw it into the bin, then hurried after Amanda. Near the elevator, Amanda turned around and looked puzzled at Ralph. Do you want to ask me something? He asked her. No, she replied curtly and stepped into the elevator. Amanda checked the time once again. It was already midnight, and Mark was not home yet. Usually, he would be home by this time. Amanda dozed off slightly when she heard the sound of a key turning in the front door. She immediately got up, turned on the light, and went to greet her husband. Mark, why did it take you so long? And why didn't you answer my calls? Amanda squinted her eyes and started scolding Mark in a displeased tone. Sweetie, I told you I'd be a little late and not to wait for me. They asked me to stay and help with restocking the shelves, Mark began to explain. Amanda furrowed her brow. Are you drunk, Mark? I can smell alcohol on you. Just a little bit, he grinned. Go to sleep, darling. I'll go to the bathroom and then join you. Amanda's desire to sleep disappeared. She followed Mark into the bathroom and deliberately began to smell his hair and the clothes he had thrown into the laundry hamper. Why does your shirt smell like women's perfume? She calmly asked, observing Mark's reaction closely. What do you mean, smells like women's perfume? He shrugged involuntarily. How would I know? We have many women working with us. He raised his eyebrows in surprise and looked at Amanda. Are you jealous? Mark smiled. I'm not jealous, I'm stating a fact that I don't like your recent behavior. Amanda finished her monologue and walked out of the bathroom. Mark lay down next to his wife on the bed. Well, what are you imagining? I don't think I've given you any reason for that. Mark received a message on his cell phone at that moment. Give me your phone, please. Amanda reached out. Why do you need it? Mark asked. I want to see who is sending you messages so late at night. Here, take a look. Mark handed his phone to Amanda. Everything's fine, the message said. The contact was saved as Peter. Amanda calmly saved the number in her phone. Why do you need that? Mark asked, surprised. I should have the numbers of all your friends. I'm pregnant, and you never know, Amanda replied. The next morning, Amanda woke up with a headache. She didn't want to get out of the warm bed, but she needed to see her husband off to work. Mark, she said to him as she placed a cup of tea and hot sandwiches on the table. Maybe you shouldn't go for extra work for now. I'll receive my salary bonuses and maternity leave payment soon. The amount will be quite substantial enough for us for the time being. Then we can see how things go. I feel sorry for you. You work too hard, you don't get enough rest, and then you go to the office early in the morning. Amanda looked at her husband with concern. Mark almost choked on his sandwich. Darling, you can't please me. First, you almost forced me to do extra work, and now you say the opposite. You need to make up your mind about what you want from me. I've just settled into this job, and besides, you can never have too much money. But all right, I'm off now. He kissed Amanda on the cheek. Thank you, dear, everything was delicious. Amanda frowned, dissatisfied. Mark, but I hardly see you. This is not normal. We need to do something about this. I can't be constantly alone. As Mark opened the front door, he turned around and looked at his wife attentively. Amanda, we will definitely come back to this issue, I promise you. He waved goodbye and blew her an air kiss. Amanda sighed heavily and went straight to the bedroom. Amanda woke up from the insistent ringing of her cell phone. Hello, future young mom, Doris greeted her. Hi, Amanda replied sleepily. Did I call you at the wrong time? Did I wake you up? It's all right, Amanda said. It's time to get up anyway. Oh, Mark came home very late yesterday. I sniffed him all over. Amanda laughed, checked his cell phone too, and I fell asleep very late. And what conclusions did you draw? Doris cautiously asked. My suspicions only grew stronger, Amanda replied, almost crying. Then Amanda told Doris about their neighbor. To be honest, Doris, this Ralph just drove me crazy yesterday with his persistence. Amanda went on to tell about the message that came to her husband's phone at night. Doris listened attentively, trying not to interrupt, occasionally inserting a word or two to comfort her friend. When Amanda finished her story, Doris let out a heavy sigh. I forgot why I called you. I have two news, one good, one bad. Which one should I start with? Let's go with the good one, Amanda said uncertainly. She felt a sense of impending anxiety but managed to compose herself well. Amanda, this acquaintance of mine has been working part-time at the same place as your Mark for a week now. She's separated from her husband, needs more money, so she decided to earn some extra cash. Amanda braced herself, but he wasn't at work yesterday and the day before yesterday. Don't worry too much though, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I couldn't keep this information from you. I've been thinking all morning whether to tell you or not. Doris sighed heavily over the phone. It felt like a weight off my shoulders when I finally told you. You did the right thing, Doris. It's better to hear the bitter truth than sweet lies. Thank you, my friend. Tears welled up in Amanda's eyes. She wiped them away with her hand and sniffled. Amanda, are you crying? Well, here's what we'll do. Go outside. I'm already on my way to you. Let's not speculate anymore. Let's go to Mark's workplace, Doris continued. Do you think we should go? Amanda timidly asked her friend. I think we should. It's time to uncover the truth. Amanda started getting ready to go outside. Her head was pounding, and her mood had plummeted. It's almost lunchtime. I'll tell him everything. See how he'll try to justify himself. Maybe I'll even say it's not his child so he won't feel ashamed in front of me. Amanda determinedly prepared herself for the conversation in full combat readiness. She stepped out onto the street and immediately noticed a car pulling up to the entrance. Ralph got out of the car. Seeing her neighbor, she became even more infuriated. Amanda, hello, he smiled. Hello, as far as I remember, we didn't switch to a familiar view, she replied sharply and turned away from Ralph. Sorry, Amanda, your face has been on my mind. It feels like we've met before, I just can't remember where, Ralph said, looking at Amanda with curiosity. Amanda turned towards Ralph, looked at him with hatred, and replied sharply, Do you really want to know where we've met? Do you really want to know? You will regret it later, she continued observing him with animosity. Very much, he calmly responded. It's been bothering me, why? What could I have done to hurt you? A question mark froze on his face, because in a drunken state, you raped me right here in this very apartment on an old dirty mattress. Now, do you understand? Amanda revealed with intense emotion. Doris pulled up in her car and, without saying another word, Amanda walked towards her friend's vehicle. Ralph grabbed her by the hand. "Amanda, I won't let you go until you explain everything to me properly," he said. Ralph noticed that Amanda was not in the state to explain anything to him. She began to free her hand from his grip. Ralph silently let her go and watched as she got into the car with her friend. The car drove away, leaving Ralph standing there unable to believe what had just happened. 6 months ago, Ralph divorced his wife, and it was a difficult process. Unexpectedly, details of his family life emerged. It turned out that Ralph was raising someone else's child and was also financially supporting his wife's lover. When the truth came out, his wife left him with almost nothing. Ralph only managed to take a suitcase with his belongings and some army photos. At that point, he didn't care about anything else. He just wanted the nightmare to be over. His life was smeared with mud during the divorce proceedings, as if he had been dumped into a bucket of filth. Ralph had never suspected that he could be such a despicable person. After the divorce, he moved into his grandfather's apartment and began drinking heavily. Yes, he drank to the point of not recognizing his own family and close friends. He spent a week at his grandfather's place, and then his parents couldn't take it anymore, so they brought Ralph home and put him under strict control. Thanks to their efforts, Ralph managed to overcome the drinking problem, got his act together, started working, and began renovating his life. And now, when the renovation was finally complete, Ralph moved into his newly refurbished apartment and unexpectedly ran into Amanda. Despite the fact that she was pregnant, he lost his peace of mind and sleep. Currently, he stood on the street reminiscing about the dream that had etched itself into his memory, refusing to leave his mind. It had been quite some time, but Ralph remembered every detail of that dream vividly. Now all the pieces fit together in his head. Amanda was the girl from his dream, and her face was crystal clear in his memory. Oh my God, was all of that real? Did I really violate that girl? Ralph clenched his fists and bit his lip with all his might. At that time, he despised all women on earth. He believed that all women were deceitful and unfaithful to their husbands. What should I do now? How can I beg Amanda for forgiveness? Ralph mumbled to himself. I got so drunk, lost my human decency, and attacked a defenseless girl. His hands trembled with nervousness, and his palms grew sweaty. I wonder how far along she is. And why have I never seen her with a husband? She roams around alone in the evenings. Maybe she doesn't have a husband. Then perhaps it's my child. Oh, it's absurd. Ralph continued to gather his thoughts. Ralph felt deeply ashamed of his disgusting behavior. How will I ever look her in the eyes? She could have filed a police report, and they could have put me in jail. Questions swarmed in his head. How could I possibly beg for her forgiveness when she doesn't even want to talk to me? Poor girl, she had to be at the receiving end of my violent actions. How I hate myself for this. I must talk to her, ask for forgiveness, maybe even offer her some money. What if it's my child? Ralph smiled dreamily. No, Mr. Brooks, that cannot be. Ralph took out his phone from his pocket and called his workplace. I have urgent matters today. If anything comes up, please send it to my email. I'll work remotely today. Ralph pressed the end call button. Don't run away from me, Amanda. Today, we will definitely talk and sort everything out. The story is taking a new turn, Ralph said seriously and let out a heavy sigh. Amanda sat in Dora's car on the passenger seat and out of frustration struggled to fasten her seatbelt. Amanda, what's wrong with you? You look upset. Is it because of Mark? Her friend asked with concern. Amanda, we don't know anything for sure yet. He could be anywhere. Don't torment yourself prematurely. Let's find out everything first, and then we can think about it, you know, Dora said. Amanda turned to her. I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to confront him at work. There's so much I need to say to him. Let's talk in a calm atmosphere when he comes home in the evening. I think he also has things to say to me." Amanda took a deep breath, then let out a heavy sigh. "Stop the car after the turn. We'll sit for a while, talk, and then I'll go home. I don't want to see Ralph again. Let him think we've left. If I meet him now, I'll definitely snap at him like a dog. I have nothing to lose anymore. I've already told him everything." "Was he standing with you by the entrance?" Doris asked. "Did you tell him everything?" "Almost," Amanda replied in a distant voice. "I just didn't mention who the father of the child is." "Well done, my friend," Doris smiled. Her face then turned serious as Amanda recounted the entire conversation with the neighbor. "You did the right thing by telling him everything. Let him know. Let's see how he behaves," Doris said, rubbing her temples. "What if he realizes the child is his? Nowadays, everyone knows how to do calculations and look things up on the internet." Amanda sighed heavily. "I don't think he'll figure that out," Doris said thoughtfully. Amanda sighed again. "All right, Doris. I'll go now. You go to work, or you'll have trouble because of me, okay?" Doris said. "If anything happens, call me." "Have a good day," Amanda replied and headed home. As she entered the building, she pressed the elevator button. At that moment, the door to the apartment on the ground floor opened, and Amanda locked eyes with Ralph. "What an unexpected encounter," Amanda said with a smirk. "Let's talk calmly," he said. "We still need to sort things out. You must have already realized that I won't just leave you alone." Ralph gestured for her to enter his apartment. Amanda, without saying a word, took a few decisive steps and found herself inside Ralph's place. "What else can we talk about?" Amanda began sarcastically as they stood by the entrance. "Do you want me to tell you everything in detail?" she asked, looking him straight in the eyes. "I want to know how far along you are with your pregnancy," Ralph asked firmly. "Is it that important to you?" "Very important," he replied. 26 weeks, Amanda said without preamble. Ralph had already scoured the entire internet, calculated everything he needed to, but now he stood there, afraid to ask the question that troubled him the most. "You want to ask if it's your child, am I right?" Amanda continued, drilling her gaze into Ralph. He couldn't utter a word, he just blinked. "Yours," Amanda answered honestly. Ralph knelt down before Amanda, gently took her hands in his, and began to kiss them. "Forgive me if you can. I thought it was all a dream. I wasn't myself and didn't know what I was doing." Amanda pulled her hands from his grasp and started wiping away tears that welled up. Images of that fateful evening replayed in her mind. Ralph carefully wrapped his arms around her waist and leaned his face against her stomach, still on his knees. "Ralph," Amanda began to remove his hands, "get up. Let's talk calmly. We have a lot to discuss and decide after all." "What's there to discuss? We're having a child together. Today, I'll move your things to my place," he said as he rose and looked tenderly at Amanda. "The first time I saw you, I lost my mind. I constantly sought meetings with you. I was drawn to you like a magnet." Ralph gently traced Amanda's lips with his index finger. Amanda removed his hand again, turned her head away so as not to meet his eyes and not see his happy face. "Ralph, actually, I'm married." Ralph's face immediately became serious and focused. "Where's your husband? Why are you always alone? Are you telling me this on purpose to upset me?" He scrutinized Amanda's face carefully, waiting for answers to his questions. Amanda sighed heavily. "Maybe we can go to the kitchen, sit down calmly, and talk over a cup of tea. Why are we standing in the hallway? You know there's no truth in hasty judgments, agreed?" "Forgive me," Ralph said and began to help Amanda take off her coat, then stored her belongings in the wardrobe and offered her his home slippers. "Sorry, I don't have women's slippers. I live alone." He spread his hands and began to justify himself before Amanda apologetically. Amanda glanced around the kitchen. "You have a beautiful place. You can tell it's freshly renovated. There's still a faint smell of wallpaper glue and paint, Amanda smiled. Ralph seated Amanda at the table, poured tea, placed a box of chocolates, cookies, and evasive fruits on the table. He sat opposite Amanda and looked at her expectantly. "Now we can talk," he exhaled, gazing tenderly at his interlocutor. "So tell me, what's the nature of your relationship with your husband?" "I still don't quite understand," he asked the question that interested him. "What's there to not understand? I think I made myself clear. I'm married." Amanda shrugged and demonstratively took a sip from her teacup. Silence hung in the air for a while. The ticking of the clocks on the wall in the living room was audible. "Well, maybe the child isn't mine, but your husband's," Ralph carefully asked, stumbling over his words. Amanda silently sipped her tea, cursing herself internally. Why did I tell him everything? Now I'll have to explain to him, and then he'll want to do a DNA test to make sure it's his child. Suddenly Amanda felt the urge to get up and leave. She placed her cup back on the table and began to rise. "Ralph, I'm sorry. Don't take everything I told you today to heart. It's all not true. Sorry once again. I just had a little argument with my husband this morning, and you just happened to be in the line of fire. I took it out on you. I'll go now," Amanda smiled apologetically. Ralph stared at her with his mouth open, finally snapping out of it. "Amanda, we're not in kindergarten. Let's talk. Can you tell me directly if it's my child or not?" Amanda rolled her eyes and sighed heavily again, sitting down on a chair, placing her hands on the table, and tapping her fingers. "Ralph, you see, I have a very complicated relationship with my husband. If you have time and nowhere to rush, I'm willing to talk to you and tell you everything," Amanda said. "I'm all ears," Ralph replied, settling comfortably and crossing his arms over his chest. "All right, then, listen," Amanda replied and began her story. After carefully listening to Amanda, Ralph smiled and once again took her hands in his palms. "So it turns out this is still my child. Amanda, please don't be mad at me. I haven't told you about my divorce with my ex-wife yet. If you have time, I can tell you," Ralph said, smiling and looking into her eyes. "I'm not in a hurry either," Amanda smiled back. "Well then, listen," Ralph laughed. "Just keep in mind that it's not a story for the faint-hearted. I'm warning you right away, nothing can surprise me anymore after what you did to me," Amanda emphasized the last words. "My nerves have become as strong as steel," Amanda replied sarcastically, provocatively looking at Ralph. "I'll probably be asking for forgiveness from you for that terrible act all my life," Ralph replied guiltily, lowering his eyes. "All right, let's move on. Start your story." "I'm all ears." Amanda leaned back on the chair and took an apple. They sat at the kitchen table for a long time. Ralph poured Amanda and himself tea several times, and because it was hot and Amanda felt thirsty, she kept drinking. When Ralph finished his sad story, they sat in silence for a while, each lost in their thoughts. Now they knew everything about each other. Ralph was the first to come to his senses. "Amanda, what are we going to do about your husband?" "I hope you'll tell him everything," Ralph asked. "Ralph, I've been trying to do that for a long time, but I lack the courage. I keep putting off the conversation because I feel ashamed in front of him. It turns out I'm constantly deceiving him." Amanda frowned and placed her hand on her forehead. "Today I will try to talk to him, especially since he has started some new affairs again. I believe that once he knows the whole truth, he'll leave me himself." Amanda closed her eyes and rubbed her temples with her hands. "I feel so ashamed in front of my husband." Amanda's tears welled up involuntarily. "I just can't and don't want to carry this burden of information anymore," she exclaimed. "Amanda, my dear, move in with me today. I'm not joking. I don't want to share you with your husband," Ralph said. "Are you serious?" Amanda looked at Ralph, bewildered. "Ralph, I understand that today's news caught you off guard, but you don't know me at all, and I don't know you either. Let's not rush. First, I'll try to talk to Mark today and tell him everything." An hour had passed since Mark was supposed to come home from work, but he still hadn't arrived. Amanda didn't call him, hoping that he was on his way home and didn't want to distract him. 2 more hours of waiting passed. The dinner had long gone cold, but Mark was still nowhere to be seen. Amanda dialed her husband's number on her cell phone, but Mark didn't answer. After a while, she tried again, but an unpleasant voice on the other end told her that the subscriber was temporarily unavailable, asking her to call again later. Amanda let out a deep, intense sigh. "Well, we'll wait. No matter when you come, Mark, we'll have that conversation today. I won't postpone it any longer." Amanda turned on the TV and lay down on the couch. She received a message from Ralph. "How's it going? Did you talk to your husband?" Ralph asked. Amanda smiled sadly and replied, "He still hasn't come home from work. The phone is unreachable." Amanda placed her phone near the pillow and closed her eyes. She dozed off but was startled when the sound of a key turning in the front door's lock woke her up. Amanda turned on her phone and checked the time. "I wonder what excuse he'll come up with this time," she thought to herself and decisively got up from the couch. "Mark, why did you take so long?" she asked calmly, squinting from the light. "Sweetheart, I'm sorry it happened that way," Mark replied, seemingly unaffected by the situation. Mark deliberately avoided looking Amanda in the eyes. There was a sense of shame and uncertainty in his awkward movements. "Mark, you're drinking alcohol while driving again." Amanda wrinkled her face from the smell of alcohol. "What are you trying to achieve? To lose your driving privileges? I've noticed this behavior from you more than once, sweetheart. Don't scold me. It happened that way. We went to a cafe with the guys, and I had only 1 glass of wine. I didn't want to leave the car on the street, so I decided to risk it and drive home. Don't worry, everything is fine," he said, approaching Amanda and quickly kissing her on the cheek. "It's late now, go to bed. I'll take a quick shower and join you. We have to get up early tomorrow." Mark looked at his wife and smiled guiltily. "Mark," Amanda said firmly, "I'm waiting for you. We need to talk." "About what?" "Because I got delayed again, and I have a lot to say about that too," Mark replied. "I've been waiting for you the whole evening to talk," Amanda continued. "There's no point in postponing the conversation any longer." "All right, let's talk," Mark said, sitting on the couch and crossing his legs. He picked up the remote, lowered the TV volume, and looked challengingly at Amanda. "Go ahead, I'm all ears." "Mark, let's agree to be completely honest with each other tonight, no matter how bitter the truth may be. We'll listen to each other and make the appropriate decisions," Amanda said. Mark let out a heavy sigh. "Agreed," he replied shortly. Amanda lowered her gaze and remained silent for a while, unsure of where to start this difficult conversation for both of them. Mark also stayed silent, staring absent-mindedly at the TV screen. "Mark, you've gotten involved with another woman again," Amanda finally spoke up. "Come on, Amanda, don't start making things up," Mark began to defend himself with a hint of irritation. "Mark, we agreed to speak only the truth, remember?" "You promised," Amanda said, carefully observing her husband's reaction to her words. "Mark, please be honest with me. If you regret being with me because I'm pregnant, let me assure you that you're making a mistake. Don't worry, it won't affect my health or the baby's, but I can feel, Mark, that you're avoiding me, that you're not interested in me anymore. Am I right?" Amanda didn't take her eyes off her husband. She could see that he wanted to answer her but was hesitant. He didn't want to hurt or disappoint her. Amanda immediately realized that she would have to extract the truth from him with forceps, so she decided to confess everything first. "Mark, listen to me carefully. Please don't interrupt me. It's very difficult for me to recall all of this, but you need to know," Amanda paused and continued, "I should have told you everything a long time ago to spare you the pain, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. But don't think I wouldn't have told you anyway." Amanda lowered her gaze, lovingly placed her hand on her belly, gently caressed it, and smiled guiltily. "Are you ready to hear me out?" she asked Mark, who responded indifferently with a nod. "All right, then, listen. Maybe you'll end up hating me after this, but you have to know the truth. Mark listened to Amanda's story with his mouth wide open and eyes staring. His mouth felt dry, and he coughed several times, swallowing his saliva. It seemed like his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. When Amanda finished her narrative, Mark couldn't say a word. After a prolonged silence, he attempted to clear his throat and spoke with a hoarse voice, "So, this isn't my child?" Amanda shook her head categorically. "No, Mark, this isn't your child. Forgive me if you can." "Well, this is unexpected," Mark said with a tone as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. He scratched his temples and then covered his head with his hands, closing his eyes. "Now it's your turn to tell your story, Mark." "It's your turn to speak the truth," Amanda whispered almost inaudibly. "Amanda, I don't know what to say. I need some time to process this information." "Honestly, I didn't expect such a turn of events," Mark replied. "I understand that you're not to blame for anything, but I also don't know how to act in this situation," Mark continued. "Just answer this, have you fallen out of love with me?" Amanda asked. "I don't know," Mark replied, still not lowering his head. His face expressed some disdain and anger. "I haven't fallen out of love with you, Amanda, but now I have a muse. She inspires me. I enjoy spending time with her," Mark said absent-mindedly, lost in his own thoughts. Suddenly, he sharply turned his head, looked at Amanda, and then shifted his gaze to her belly. "And does this neighbor know that it's his child?" he asked her, staring intensely into Amanda's eyes. "I told him today," she replied. "Why on earth did you do that?" Mark yelled, glaring at his wife with anger. "I'm amazed at you, Mark. What's got you so worked up? You go out and enjoy yourself without even thinking about me, not caring about how I feel or what mood I'm in. I call you, and you don't answer, not even considering that I might be in a bad place and need your help. You can't even imagine that I don't need a husband like you." "Well, actually, I wasn't planning to divorce you," Mark said sarcastically, "but it seems you've already found yourself a new husband." Mark got up and went to open the front door. "Mark, where are you going?" Amanda asked in fear. "I need to teach that jerk a lesson, and I won't calm down until I do. He's going to pay for his despicable act," Mark replied. Amanda rushed to her husband and managed to grab his hand. "Start with yourself. Understand that even if it were your child, I would have still left you. Do you think I don't know that you weren't working extra shifts for 2 evenings, but instead you were with your muse? You live for your own pleasure, deceiving me and deceiving yourself. Nothing will stop you anymore." "You know why," Amanda continued with dissatisfaction. "Why?" Mark replied in an annoyed tone. "Because, Mark, you don't love me, and you never did. When someone loves a person, they always want to be with them, breathe the same air, take care of them, spend every free minute together. But for us, Mark, it's all the opposite. We have nothing in common. We have our own separate interests. We exist independently of each other." Amanda fell silent, let out a heavy sigh, and smiled bitterly. "You have a muse. What a beautiful word, Mark. It's almost funny. But couldn't you just say straightforwardly that you found another lover and that spending time with her is more interesting than with me? Am I right, Mark?" Amanda looked closely at her husband and forced a bitter smile as treacherous tears welled up in her eyes. Mark's face turned sour. "Amanda, right now I'm in such a state that I can't think straight. You've pulled the rug out from under me. I need to think carefully and decide what's the right thing to do. Can I accept someone else's child?" "Mark, it's too late to think. I'm filing for divorce and releasing you with a light heart to your next muse. And this is my final decision. Your betrayals have just worn me out. The way we live together is simply unbearable. It's no longer a family, it's a parody of a family." Mark looked at Amanda with a distant gaze. It was evident that this news caught him off guard. In reality, Mark didn't blame Amanda. He knew she wasn't cheating on him and always kept the warmth of home. But at this moment, he hated her. He wanted to lash out at his wife, say all sorts of nasty and foul words, and only the fact that Amanda was pregnant held him back with all his strength. Mark silently walked into the living room and collapsed onto the couch. "I'll be sleeping here tonight," he said in a voice that brooked no objection. "You should go to bed too. I've had enough for today. My head is exploding from all these thoughts. Let's calmly continue our conversation tomorrow evening. Good night." He forced the words out, turning away from Amanda and burying his face in the pillow. The next morning, Amanda got up and prepared breakfast for Mark as if nothing had happened. It was evident that her husband was in a terrible mood. Mark reluctantly ate his omelet and took a few sips of coffee, trying not to upset Amanda. He avoided making eye contact with her. He wanted to escape from home as quickly as possible to distract himself at work, think calmly about his next steps, and make the only right decision. In reality, Mark himself had been considering divorcing his wife. He no longer found her attractive as a woman. He was constantly drawn to others. Yes, Amanda was a wonderful homemaker, but nothing more. However, now that his wife had proposed a divorce herself, possessive feelings ignited within Mark. "Instead of crying and begging me to forgive her and accept the child as my own, she's acting all defiant." Mark couldn't calm down. Look at how proud she is. Let's see how she'll sing a different tune when the child's father rejects her. Mark scrunched up his face, recalling his conversation with his wife from yesterday. She was counting on this guy, which was why she was so proud now. Today, he needed to pay this guy a visit, have a heart-to-heart with him, and give him a couple of punches in his shameless face so he wouldn't touch other men's wives again. At work, Mark was not himself. Louise, with whom he had developed a very close and romantic relationship lately, approached him several times. But even with Louise, Mark wasn't in the mood to interact today. "Well, I'm dating Louise now. She has a child," Mark reasoned, "but that doesn't bother me. I'm fine with it. So why did it hurt my pride so much to find out Amanda is pregnant with someone else's child?" Louise's voice interrupted Mark's sad thoughts. "Mark, I don't recognize you today. Who upset you so much? Let's go to my place. You can share your feelings, and I'll give you a massage." Louise placed her hands on his shoulders. Mark removed her hands and said thoughtfully, "I can't today. My wife is waiting for me." "Sorry, when has that ever stopped you?" Louise laughed. Mark looked at his lover with disdain and, without saying another word, walked towards his car. "You won't even drive me home," she shouted displeasedly after him. "You'll manage on your own today," Mark replied without turning back. Amanda peeked out the window. There was a police car parked nearby. An anxious feeling troubled her. She put on her coat, went downstairs, and called the elevator. On the first floor, the door opened, and police officers came out, called by Ralph's neighbor. They had come to quell a fight that two brawlers had started. Following them, Ralph and Mark were brought out in handcuffs. Mark had a cut eyebrow, while Ralph had a split lip, and blood was oozing from it. Having seen Amanda, Ralph stopped and looked at her guiltily. He raised both hands in handcuffs and started wiping the blood from his split lip with one hand. "Amanda, everything's fine, don't worry. It will be okay. They'll release us soon," Ralph reassured her, handing her the keys to the apartment. "Please close the door and keep the keys." Mark, who had been observing the entire scene, snorted disapprovingly and, without saying a word, silently left. Amanda, stuttering slightly, asked the police officer a question. "Can you tell me, are you taking them to the police station?" "Yes, we're taking them as disturbers of public order," calmly replied the police officer. "They'll spend a little time at the station, cool off, and we'll draw up a report. Then we'll see how they behave. If they behave well and their documents are in order, we'll release them in 3 hours. But if they continue to misbehave, we might detain them for longer. Don't worry, young lady, everything will be fine." He looked significantly at Amanda and added, "So, they fought because of you, I suppose?" Amanda lowered her eyes and blushed like a ripe tomato, responding, "I don't know, maybe because of me." As promised by the law enforcement officer, Ralph and Mark were released after 3 hours at the police station. Having received a lecture on how to behave, Mark returned home, not saying a word, and immediately went to the bathroom. Amanda looked out the window and saw Ralph sitting on the bench near the entrance. She put on her coat, hurried downstairs, and handed Ralph the keys. "Ralph, how are you feeling?" Amanda asked anxiously. "I'm okay," Ralph smiled bitterly and touched his split lip. "I got what I deserved. I understand Mark, as one man to another. I didn't want to fight him, I asked him to talk, but it was impossible to stop him." Ralph touched his lip again and shook his head. "He throws a good punch." Ralph raised his eyes and looked at Amanda. "Amanda, I told him I wouldn't let another man raise my child. I want to raise my daughter myself, bathe her, change her diapers, buy her pacifiers, onesies." Ralph fell silent and continued to look at Amanda with a guilty expression. "Amanda, just say the word, and I'll move all your things to my apartment." Upon seeing Ralph's eloquent gaze, Amanda understood that he was determined to take her with him and never let her go again. "Ralph, thank you so much for not abandoning me in this difficult moment. I must admit, it's very comforting to have such tremendous support in you. But I need to figure out what to do with Mark." "Give me time to think and talk to Mark," Amanda said. Ralph cautiously took her hand and pressed it against his cheek. "Think, but not for long, because I'll burn up like a match with jealousy while waiting for you. I'll give you a day, no more. I just can't bear it any longer." Amanda laughed. "Ralph, I have to go." She gently freed her hand from his embrace, patted his head, and without saying anything else, turned around and went home. Back at home, Amanda found Mark sitting at the kitchen table, silently sipping brandy. "Mark, why did you have to start a fight?" "But I would have understood if you were a model family man," Amanda said. Mark put a lemon wedge in his mouth and grimaced. "I just realized now that I'm not ready to lose you. But I want you to be happy." 3 years passed. Mama, Dad's here." Medina rushed into her father's arms. Ralph picked up his daughter and playfully lifted her up. "Hello, my beauty." He lovingly kissed her on one cheek and then on the other, then put her back on the ground. Amanda approached and also kissed her husband on the cheek. "Daddy, we've been waiting for you eagerly," Medina said. "We'll feed you quickly, and then we'll go for a walk." "You promised Medina to fly her kite today, the one her godmother gave her," Amanda said. Medina jumped with joy. "I want to fly the kite." Ralph looked at his daughter tenderly. "Got it, my lady." "I'll be quick," he said, winking at her. Amanda observed her husband thoughtfully as he enjoyed the meal and tried to give attention to their beloved daughter. Medina happily told her father how she helped her mom prepare dinner, and Ralph listened attentively and praised her for helping her mom. "Ralph," Amanda interrupted their conversation. He reluctantly tore himself away from their daughter's story. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. "We're going to have a baby." "I'm pregnant," Amanda said. Ralph put down his silverware, stood up, and gently embraced his wife. "Thank you, my love. I've been dreaming of hearing these words from you for so long." Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.